9 people shot dead in a single weekend in Chicago, 54 more hit by bullets. And the governor stood in front of cameras and said, everything was fine. Everything was fine. Stay with me, because what happened next in Washington this week is something every American needs to hear. Washington, D.C. was considered one of the most dangerous capitals in the world. Every single week, for years, someone was murdered in these streets. Last week, for the first time in memory, not a single person was killed. 0. How did that happen in just 15 days? And why won't Chicago's governor make the same call? Drop your answer in the comments right now. I want to know what you think. 1,600 hardcore criminals were removed from D.C.'s streets. Not relocated, removed. The president stood before a foreign head of state and announced with visible pride that nobody died in Washington this week. The foreign leader reportedly stared back in disbelief, not because it was impressive, but because the bar had gotten that low. That moment right there tells you everything about how far American cities have fallen. And now the administration says Chicago is next. The National Guard is going in. No date confirmed yet, but the words were clear. We're going in. Meanwhile, residents on the South Side, most of them Black Americans, appeared on television this morning begging, literally begging for federal intervention. Not political theater, real people, real fear. If you've been following this story, hit the like button. It tells us to keep covering it daily. But here's what almost nobody is talking about, and this is the part that could affect every single American's wallet. While the crime headlines were dominating the news cycle, a federal appeals court quietly dropped a ruling that sent the stock market down the same afternoon. The tariffs, the ones the administration says have already pulled in trillions of dollars in foreign investment, were ruled against by a 7-4 decision along strict ideological lines. The administration is now racing to the Supreme Court, requesting an emergency expedited ruling. The president's words were stark. Without those tariffs, this country could become a third world economy. That is not a small statement. And the clock is ticking. There's also a moment from this week's press conference that went completely viral for a different reason. A reporter asked the president live on camera, "How did you find out over the weekend that you were dead?" Over 1.3 million people had engaged with posts claiming the president had died simply because he hadn't been seen publicly for 2 days. His response, comparing himself to Biden, who went months without press conferences while nobody raised an eyebrow, landed like a grenade in the room. The media credibility debate just got a brand new exhibit. And then, almost casually, as the press conference was wrapping up, came the announcement that a drug-carrying boat out of Venezuela had been intercepted and destroyed by U.S. forces, minutes earlier while the briefing was still happening. The general heading the Joint Chiefs was in the room. The drugs are gone, the boat is gone. The president's message was simple. There's more where that came from. One more thing before you go. The U.S. Space Command is officially moving to Huntsville, Alabama. Over 30,000 jobs, billions in investment, and a facility that will anchor America's Golden Dome missile defense program. This was originally awarded to Alabama, blocked by the previous administration for reasons that multiple government reviews called politically motivated, and now it's been restored. The Pentagon's own Inspector General had recommended Huntsville all along. Alabama came first in 2 separate competitions. The politics just got in the way, until now. Here's the real question sitting underneath all of this. If Washington, D.C. can be turned around in 15 days, if a drug boat can be taken out mid-press conference, if a Supreme Court emergency filing can be triggered before the markets close, what does it mean for the cities where governors are still saying they don't need help? Chicago, Baltimore, Los Angeles. The pattern is visible. The question is, who blinks first? We cover these developments every single day, not weekly, not when it's convenient, daily. If today's breakdown gave you something the mainstream coverage missed, share this with one person who needs to see it. And if you're not subscribed yet, now's the time, because tomorrow's story is already developing, and you won't want to come in halfway through.